This is Christo Roppolo, and you're listening to the Unbelievers Podcast.
There were several groups. One of the principal ones was the reptilians from the Orion complex.
Without any exaggeration, it was like being on fire inside.
Rats were eating you up inside.
This stuff was in my mouth. It felt like it was 500 degrees. It was unbelievably hot.
My first question would be, were you a member of the Church of Satan, a card-carrying member of the Church of Satan?
I don't understand.
There's always an argument for everything. You know, just because somebody can fake something doesn't necessarily mean it's
World War, and we found a life form. And that's when I started shitting my pants.
So for the person who called, I am carrying an alien.
An alien baby, we covered right here, okay?
Okay.
Something is happening. What is it? That's the question. So do UFOs exist? It depends on what you mean exist.
In 2016, the world of ufology was rocked by a compelling documentary that focused on a man who could summon UFOs seemingly at will, and it recorded hours of video footage to back up his claims. The documentary, The Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs, followed the hijinks and high strangeness of Christo Roppolo, who, along with his faithful canine companions, captured some of the most remarkable UFO footage that has ever been seen. Tonight, the Unbelievers Podcast welcomes Christo Roppolo back to the program to discuss the all-new, long-awaited sequel, The Man Who Sees UFOs, and reveals some stunning revelations regarding his ever-evolving contact with extraterrestrial crafts. So join us now as we explore the fascinating world of Christo Roppolo, The Man Who Sees UFOs, right here in the program. We continue to learn to unlearn everything you know. Hello and welcome to the Unbelievers Podcast. I'm your host, Russ Ryan, and joining me as always is my co-host, Drea Mora. Hello, Drea.
Hey, what's up?
And our soundboard engineer and producer, Rob Oakey.
That baby went in warp drive.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing great. Hello, Rob.
Good. Warp drive.
Yeah, Rob, we're about to take it into warp drive because we are doing a rare interview episode. I feel like we haven't done an interview since, what, Elijah Henderson?
Has it really been that long?
Was Secret 7 or something 7, was that after?
Oh, right.
Elijah?
Yeah, Single 7. Single 7.
I always get that name
The
wrong.
Truth About Single 7. That was another one that was a good interview. I can't remember.
Yeah, they are very sporadic for us.
Yeah, they were around the same time, I think.
Yes, but it's been a while. We definitely haven't done one this year, so let's get into it. A fun interview, and this is a sequel to an interview because tonight we are talking to the man who sees UFOs. Sometimes I feel I've got to. Tonight, we are joined by Christo Roppolo. Christo is a filmmaker, musician, UFO contactee, and subject of the 2016 documentary Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs. He had his first UFO sighting as a child and has been filming and communicating with them for several years around his home in Monterey, California. The brand new sequel, The Man Who Sees UFOs, is available now on Vimeo On Demand. Christo Roppolo, welcome back to the Unbelievers Podcast.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be back. You guys, this time we don't have to worry about the CIA interrupting the podcast. Or anything.
I mean, we're always worried about that, but hopefully they don't bother us tonight, you know?
They're constantly on my tail now. Yeah. They've kind of moved over to Monterey, but I'm finding new locations all the time.
You got to keep moving. And I noticed that for this new film, you have dropped the curse from the title. Do you no longer feel that this is a curse? Or did you break the curse?
Well, this sequel, I think, or this chapter rather, is actually kind of the horror movie of the two films because, you know, I'm sure you know what happens to me in the movie and, you know, without giving away too much stuff to people. Yeah, that's pretty heavy. And you know, as we started off with the movie, everything was, you know, proceeding as planned. And we'd gotten about 2/3 of the way through the movie. And then torpedoes just started coming towards the production. And we were stopped dead for like 2 weeks. Didn't know if we were even going to be able to make the movie. Battled that battle, got that worked out. And then the things started to unfold with the landlord. And Chewbacca, and then Dennis passed away, and it just turned into the curse again. And so the film is me escaping the curse by hook or by crook, basically. And we didn't intend it to be, as serious in some parts as it was, because we wanted to keep the tone lighter and make it more of a road trip movie. But as things unfold and you're making a documentary, you have to put what's there, It's really...
and it being your real life, there were a lot of dark moments, but that same charm did come through, though. I mean, not to give anything away, you get some great partial nudity in this movie. It was like there was no way you weren't going to see Christo's ass in the sequel, and it is. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but it is fantastic.
Yeah, full reverse nude. You get me weeping several times over and over again like a little girl. I basically break every kind of constraint of personal revealing that you can do, I think, but we'll see. Somebody might outdo me soon. So far, I haven't seen anything like that, especially in the UFO realm. I have yet to see Stephen Greer's ass, Tom DeLonge's ass.
Let's see him though. Let's see Stephen Greer's ass. That thing's probably, if he flexes that thing, it's probably got some muscles in it.
Yeah.
I think we have seen Tom DeLonge's ass at some point with Blink-182.
Mine looks kind of like a melted ski ramp. You know what I mean? It's just kind of straight trajectory up and down. You know. But,
I feel you on that.
Yeah.
all this and UFOs are what make both your documentaries really great. And in this new documentary, you showed something that I think our listeners would be really interested in. You talk about meeting a man named John who showed you bowls with alien faces that were found on Monastery Beach. Could you talk about these bowls with alien faces?
The Indians, the Romson Indians and the Uminum Indians, and there's a couple other tribes, Esalen Indians, they all used these rocks down by the beach, and they would pull in these big shoals of fish, and they would take a rock like a mortar and start breaking up shellfish or making the fish into a poi, kind of a mixture, like a fish paste that they would, sometimes they'd preserve it, sometimes they use it in food right away. But basically that was a place where they did a lot of kind of construction work, hands-on stuff, whether it was working with food or it was grinding down rocks or making some kind of beads or whatever. Those bowls were a big part of it. And there's a particular beach, which I'm not going to give away because it's right next to, I'll give you a clue. It's next to the landfill for the Romson Indians, which is a 15,000-year-old culture. So they were actually on Earth longer than the Egyptians. And their landfill is an actual archaeological site that shows their history chronographically by virtue of what's in that landfill. And a lot of the tools that were used to make those bowls or to grind things in those bowls, and sometimes they use those rocks too to anchor their boats that were tied up on the beach or whatever, because the current in the undertow is really strong, and they would usually keep their boats as close to the water as possible because they were real heavy. So those bowls, finding them in a million places, and it just looks like Swiss cheese everywhere. And then my friend John is like, well, this certain cycle of the moon, the tide's going to come down low enough for like 3 days. And when that happens, you can see this. And I'm like, okay. So he shows me this picture. I'm like, can I use that picture in the movie? And he's like, no. And why not? And he's like, because I don't really believe in UFOs. And this is just a symbol, something that they created. If you want to say it's an alien face, that's okay, but you're not going to do it with my picture. So I had to wait, and I waited for, this cycle of the moon thing to happen. He told me when the heads up was, because he would go down there all the time and document these bowls and their significance. He's writing all these papers on. He's an astronomer too. And so I went down there, and sure as shit, the low tide came in and there was that alien face. And it's, the eyes are exactly right. The mouth is exactly right. The rock that it's on is the shape of an alien head. You would never see it unless the tide was low, because the seaweed and the seagrass or whatever just kind of obscures it when the water's high. So you don't even know it's there until the water comes down that low.
And this is a gray alien face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, I mean,
on a rock.
On a rock. Yeah.
Water. Yeah. So,
Very
that's
cool.
like big. And this person, John, just to give you another little caveat about him. He's an astronomer. So we would have fierce arguments about, I wanted him to be in the movie, but he wouldn't come on camera. We'd have fierce arguments about the validity of UFOs and that these orbs were not just some kind of, ball lightning or tectonic discharge, all this crap, which I knew they weren't, because when you see something in front of you that's 10 feet away and it changes from the size of a basketball to the size of a car and back, it's elastic and it's, amorphous, and it's strobing these lights around it that are being exchanged in patterns with these other ones that are right next to it. It's not that. So finally, he came out of the back of his house one night when the orbs were just making these big parades for some reason over Monterey over the course of like 2 or 3 months during, I think it was like 2014 or something like that. And he gave me a call on the phone and I'm like, hey, John, what's up? It's kind of late for you. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I saw them all. They came like some kind of fucking parade over the top of my house, of all places. And he goes, and my house is on the ley lines. So that's really significant too. And I'm like, what's that? He's like, it's the ancient map of the earth, these lines that go all the way around the earth and show you the torus of the earth, as well as the points that lead, the energy points on the earth that lead to the tip of the torus and then go back down through the planet and out the bottom of it again, right? And he's like, and it just so happens that they were on that line at that latitude exactly. So he's like, I saw him. He's like, but I'm not going to talk about it.
It's like Stonehenge is also on the ley lines. And I think we've talked about a lot of stuff on our show that happens to, also happen along those ley lines. So there's definitely something
like
to
the 37th parallel is the other part.
Yeah, the 37th parallel as well.
All that, there's a wall in Berkeley that still hasn't been connected to any specific culture. Some people think it was the Chinese who brought these giant 15-ton blocks to Berkeley. But there's basically a version of the Great Wall that runs through the countryside in Berkeley foothills. And we wanted to put it in this movie, but I'm going to put it in the third one. By the way, I'm going to announce right now to everybody that there is going to be a third movie as long as I'm stay alive long enough to see that happen. And a lot of people, have asked me because, in both of these movies, we were only able to use probably about 15 or 20% of the footage I provided for both directors. There's a lot of stuff that people just have not seen because I was either holding it back for a movie or I was researching that particular behavior and didn't want to talk about it until I knew what I was talking about. But the third movie is going to be quite something, and I'm going to direct that one. I'm bringing in a couple of people that I'm already working with as well on the production team. I may hire an actual Hollywood editor. I want to put I want it to be the Godfather 3, basically, where I can just kind of sit down in a little chair with the puppy sitting next to me, pump over at the end of the movie. You know what I mean? But I guarantee that particular film, I'm going to feature some stuff like the daylight triangle footage that I had on the Paranormal on camera. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. Yes, that you were featured on one of the favorite shows, Paranormal Caught on Camera. What was that like being on there?
That was quite a trip. They came forward after, I guess they became fans of the movie and what have you, and they kind of tracked me for a while. And then at my worst possible personal part of my life, as far as living conditions go, of course, that's when they contact me and said they wanted to do a show. So coincidentally, just prior to that, there was the unfortunate passing of Anthony Bourdain. And so I went out and did a tribute sighting. I just went out on a daylight thing because it was perfect conditions over the mountains. So I got really close to the time corridor in the saddle of the hills, and I started signaling. And this fucking huge, excuse my language, huge daylight.
You can speak freely for sure on our show. No worries.
Right. You know me. Huge daylight triangle that's like, 40 miles wide just starts manifesting. And it's turning three-dimensionally. Everything's locked. There's no blinking lights. And there is pulsing. But I try to explain to people that, when UFOs come into an airspace, they like it when there's more air traffic, because if there's air traffic, they can kind of slide in there with the other air traffic unnoticed, as long as they keep themselves dimmed and bunched up. And they've actually fooled me. Like in this second movie, when we go up to the top of Mount Umunhum, I did that because Tom DeLonge came down to a sighting, which I also wanted to include his pictures, and I still may, whether he likes it or not.
Awesome.
But the people that work here are very nervous about fair use, and I'm not really as nervous as they are.
So, I understand. I understand.
He asked for permission. I said, yeah, but check it out. You're my bitch while you're here.
We really need, we're going to get that footage out of you. We might just have to just see it. But
don't use any of it. I'm like, we'll see.
Can you tell us a little bit about having Tom there? What, like, that experience? What a little bit more about that?
Doing a sighting one night, and I was right in the middle of communicating with like about 4 or 5 orbs that are in this movie, and all of a sudden the phone rings. And people call me at the most inconvenient times all the time. That's usually when my phone rings, filming or something. So it rings, and I pick it up, and I don't recognize the voice. He's like, Christo? And I'm like,
where are you?
He's like,
where are you?
Like, what are you doing now? And I was like, well, I'm signaling UFOs. Who's this? And he's like, well, this is Tom DeLonge. And I'm like, really? From Blink 182? I'm like, dude. I'm like, I used to be on Reconstriction Records a long time ago. You remember Bongo Records and stuff when you guys first started, and you used to come to these parties down in San Diego when we were all partying and ask for permission to play. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that shit. I was like, oh, well, I guess it's you. So, he started asking me all these questions about what they were doing while I was signaling them and stuff. And I'm like, well, they're signaling me back. And he's asking me what it all means. And I said, well, I'm starting to think that it means they want us to be a part of their formation, because every time they show us, especially the triangles, there's always 3 different types of UFOs in there. I'm not sure if people understand it. The big one is like what I call the Eggman UFO. And that's usually like a more amber, large, huge thing that when planes fly by it, they look like an ant next to a melon. It's like a big, big sized image.
Yeah, I do like, you've got what? The Eggman, you got the jellyfish, and the jellyfish, you describe it in there as the alien bus. Is that correct? That it's like they're almost, it's not, is it an actual organism?
Yeah.
Or is it nuts and bolts?
It's like them. See, though, the orbs, when I talk about the orbs, there is different categories, and you're very good. It's the jellyfish, Eggman, and then the fireball orbs, which the fireball orbs are like a little tribe of orbs, and they're trippy. They're the ones that came down to my house on my back porch and did some crazy shit right in front of my face that I'll never forget. And it's like when you see that stuff and you can feel it, I'm not talking about just the stuff on a golf course, but, and when you can feel them talking to each other, because when they pulse around like that, they're putting off this energy that is palatable. You can feel it in your body, and you can almost hear a noise, but it's not really a sound. It's kind of just the pulsing that you hear in your head, but it's rhythmic. It's like
interesting. Yeah, like a vibrations and like beats.
It's like if your teeth were chattering, except your jaw's not moving at all.
Wow.
Okay. That's a good description of it. Because I was going to ask, there's been other people who have seen stuff similar to like how you see it, and they say that they get like a feeling. Is that sort of just like even before, when you're on your way to go do it, it's going to happen sort of beforehand?
Especially like the last 2 times I did it recently, which is, I like about a week ago, I got a really good window to just do it. And Gino and I just jumped in the car and we went out there, and I got to this place, and it was right by the highway. So I was a little nervous about, signaling right by the highway, because there's cars right in front of me going like this, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, fuck it, put on my fucking alien face, and I just started signaling. This huge orb appears, and it's in one of the trailers for the sneak preview or for the upcoming thing with the movie that we just released.
Yeah, you're talking about this footage of it's two jellyfish ships, and they're melding into each other. It's really remarkable footage. I want to ask, do you think that these crafts, are these extraterrestrials, or are these just a part of Earth that we don't understand?
They're conscious entities. They're type 3. That's why I'm studying specifically the orbs, the jellyfish, the Eggman, the fireballs. Those are amorphous entities that are, they just announced that they're tying quantum physics and supernatural very, very close to each other now. And when people say, well, why is the whole universe empty? Why isn't there any life anywhere else if there's all these aliens running around? And I'm like, because they don't exist in this dimension, dumbass. And when they're on the planet, we can't see them because we exist in the three-dimensional world that is incapable of perceiving them unless they light themselves up on the other side of that veil that separates them. Whenever they appear for all these people and they're moving around and moving at great speeds, dimensionally, they're not really doing that, because they're behind this veil. And even if you approach them, I've seen a helicopter fly straight up to one and fly right into it, and pass through it. So
it also seems like that it's not, even though they are coming through these dimensions, it's not everyone that's privy. It seems that there are certain people like you and some others, and you are signaling to them, but you're not alone signaling these. You were joined in many scenes by a woman named Angel the Truth Seeker from San Jose. I want to ask, how did Angel affect the way that you summon these? Because she seems to have a different approach than you as far as the signaling.
First of all, so, she pursued me. So I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Any woman that wants to pursue some guy like me, I'm like, all right, let's see what that's all about. And literally the first time I did a sighting with her, she was there ahead of me, and she was using my signals, but she was using a big mirror that's a sun mirror. And, she's very, very good, and she's very physical and very athletic. So she's really energetic when she starts signaling, and she just pushes all of her energy into that shit. And when you have two people and they're both, certain, there's no doubt. There can't be any doubt in anybody's mind. If any smartasses show up, they'll start punking you. They'll fly alongside of planes and stuff. So they'll make all kinds of, it's a bad sighting. You want them to show up as a group and start doing formations without any contamination from man-made craft, which, like I said, if they want to, occasionally they'll use a plane as a point of light in one of their formations, just out of convenience, So, her power, though, goes really far, because she was able to signal objects with my signals. She didn't originally start doing that. She did it by just thinking about it telepathically. But when she started using the signals, you saw those things at daylight above Mount Umunhum. They look like cylindrical buildings that were floating up in the air, dude. And I swear, when those things moved in, they came in so fast. It was like, I couldn't even believe that they were able to stop before they came right up next to each other. And then they opened the front part of each other, which that thing, if you look at it real close, it looks like a cylinder.
Like a rod.
With kind of like a fucking Transformers face kind of on the front of it, but it's a metal that moves like this, right? It was heavy. That thing went like that, and then they turned and they locked together like chain links, and they started spinning around. And I'm like, okay, these are two building-sized things doing this. This could be dangerous, right? And I'm looking at Angel, and she's laughing, and I'm looking at these things, and it was just It was breathtaking. And it went on for about 5 minutes. And there's these people, of course, standing around us in these ancient stone circles. At the top.
It's one of my favorent parts of the new documentary was this scene. I love
it.
And yeah.
Myself, Tom DeLonge, here we come, baby. New Dallas, go to the top of the mountain.
The monolith structure I wanted to ask you about too, that this was taken at. Was this is this like an old government, just strangely monolithic looking building? I mean, it looks like a place where you would call UFOs from.
Yeah, it was the largest Doppler radar for the Cold War. That was like 150 feet across, this big radar.
It's crazy. That building is the same thing that's out there as one in Montauk, where I live. There's the Montauk Radar Tower. That building is the exact same sort of building. And I could tell that that's what was on top of that thing. It's one of those giant radar towers.
And imagine that thing's job was to track Soviet bombers that would be incoming, dispatch an F-17 or whatever kind of jet it was at that time, equipped with one missile that had a nuclear tip on it. And when they would fire that missile, it would hit one of those bombers and destroy all of them. If it was a fleet, instead of just one, they'd get them all. That's a pretty good reason for the UFOs to be really interested in a secret underground base and bunker, which I also have been to and, had a lot of issues and problems as a result of making that mistake. But I will tell you.
Subterraneans? Were there subterraneans?
There was a craft. When I was at the gate, I was filming the gate because there was just no way into it. Up by the communication towers and in the area that the college is in, I won't say which college, but it's college area. There are several entrances to the secret base. Some of them are way back in the hills by where the old logging mills used to be. Others are on the top of the hills where the communication towers are, because it's very easy for them to keep an eye on an entrance to a secret base. If it's already surrounded and says keep out because there's towers here, it's what you call it, Homeland Security place. You don't travel in
that. Yeah.
They were
like they did to Mel's Hole.
You know what they did to my car? They microwaved my computer in my car.
Oh man.
I started fucking around with the locks. They lit me up and I didn't know it until I was going down the hill. And I got to the Mercedes place. The Mercedes mechanic told me, he goes, "I've only seen this happen to one other Mercedes." And it was the commander for the DOD building. When he went through the fence there, he forgot to put in his card, and he just went in behind one of the other cars and they roasted his brand new 450 SL. And I'm
my God.
$1,000 worth of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
the mind control beam was just cranked up in your path at the time.
The payoff, though, was, and this is one of those sightings that I want to include in the third film that I couldn't film, but I want to go on camera with a lie detector test on me, so people know that these stories I'm telling them are not fantasy or fiction. This is 100% exactly what happened. So I'm going to share one with you right now.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah, I'm going to share one with you right now, which is, while I was at that gate, I was at these locks and I realized that something had happened because this big sound happened and I didn't realize it was something with my car. So I turned around and I had the camera pointed at the gate. So I was documenting what I was doing. And I turned around because there was a big flash, like a huge blinding white light. And so I'm like, okay, it's for sure the cops, because I'm only like about 100 yards away from the gate for the place where the CHP's post, where the sheriff's post, where the guards for the base and the Rangers all post, and the fire department. They're all in this one base. And so I'm like, it's got to be them. So I turn around really slowly because, you know, I don't want to get shot or whatever. I'm standing basically in front of a bad place to be standing in front of. And I turn around and it's not a truck. It's a big, giant, transparent bubble disc. And it's moving towards me, super slow, completely silent. I can see the shape of it because it's reflecting light from the moon and from the beacons on the towers, from the radio transmitter and the whole thing. And I am just like petrified. And as it comes, it gets right up over the top of me. It's about 50 feet in circumference. and it's ribbed and it's totally transparent. But then all of a sudden it it fills itself in and it becomes totally white. And then it rolls open its bottom and it opens like the iris of a camera. And it opens, and as it's opening, the body of the thing, this disc, opens wider. So it's like a mouth just yawning super wide. And I looked inside, and there's this thing that's like an orb, but very different than an orb in that it looked like it was gelatinous, and it was white and clear. And inside of it, it had all of the little fireball orbs, and they were like spinning around in this space, which the thing sat over my head for probably about 30 seconds. And I was watching it, and I tried to reach down. I was keeping my eyes on it and reached for the camera. And as soon as I got my finger on the camera, I clicked off a frame, and it heard it or reacted. It just closed the thing back up. And I was like, wait. And I'm getting the camera. And I'm trying to film it as it's going. My camera will not work at all. I couldn't get it to turn on. Battery's dead, everything. And I watch it. It goes back to this clear state. So it's like a bubble now, but it's a disc. And it's slowly moving over this yard where all these communication towers are. And it just swims right out into all these oncoming jets and planes. And it's passing them by like 10 or 12 feet as it's going the opposite. They're coming towards the San Jose airport, and it's going towards the other side of the bay, towards Monterey, like west. But it just slowly swims out into the air traffic and then gets dimmer and dimmer until it was gone. Wow. But that's one of the I want to talk about with a lie detector test. Just full test, no event, no prep for it. I'll come in, and there's several sightings that I've had with big craft that were discs, and I have never been able to capture one because it's just when you see one of those things, to me, two of them, the one that I just described and another one that I saw in Monterey, looked like the disc from The Day the Earth Stood Still. And the classic look. Yeah, the classic white disc. I swear to God, it was like that. When it approached, it looked more kind of oval-like because it was transparent. But as it started filling out, the bottom was definitely concaved and then just barely parabolic on the bottom. But then, it's weird to see a thing that's like this size as a disc. And as it opens this portal in the middle of it, it starts growing its whole body out to accommodate this hole that's opening. So to me, it was more like it opened some kind of a fucking a different space.
It's like defying physics. Yeah. It's defying the modern laws of physics, basically, in our dimension, right in front of your eyes.
And that actually brings me to something I wanted to ask you about, because you got a pretty unique perspective on a lot of this. So Stephen Greer and his CE5 contacting is very similar to your method of signaling. I don't know if you follow the teachings of Stephen Greer. I just want to know, what are your thoughts on, and Dorothy Izod. I was going to ask about that as well. But before that, what are your thoughts on Greer and CE5?
Here's what I say now, especially about everybody. I joke about Tom, and I joke about a lot of people in the genre. I have people that I'm very, very deeply respectful of, like Steve Barone, who's been in the field for many, many years. And, he's one of the first people who found out that the orbs can mimic our aircraft as well. And he's taken a lot of shit for that. People are telling him it's this or it's that. And he's like, I'm using a flight app. I'm using a star map. I'm using something that tells me when satellites are there in real time while I'm filming these objects. So it's not that. So we all have to kind of put our guns in our holsters and our egos in our back pocket for a little while. Just take the hat off, that says I'm this guy or I'm that guy. And we all need to join hands, literally, at a sighting, because there's so much power there and so much ability to communicate, or at least the willingness to open yourself up to it, that it would seem like a real missed opportunity for several of us with this ability to do this, to come together and try to do it and collectively try to share information about what we may have found out away from one another that's important for all of us to know. But it's going to be pretty unimpressive to any kind of entity, especially a type 3 entity that has, the ability to manipulate particles and transfer itself back and forth dimensionally and through time, to not be like that. If we look like we're all just running around, cats and dogs biting each other on the tail, that's not a good first impression. But I have high hopes because the orbs came to me when I passed away in the hospital, and they pushed me down on the floor after I fell off the bed, and I couldn't figure out why they were doing it. And then the nurse walked in, and the nurse saw this orb on me, and she's like, "Is that a fire on you?" And I'm like, No, it's an orb. And I tried to get up again, and it lit me up, and went out the window. Right. So these things, if they want to, like when I tried to get up, I had fallen out of the bed or something. I don't know, because I was in bad shape after I was in the hospital and that happened. That thing pushed me down like on the ground. Like, I'm a big dude. When I'm on the ground like this, if I push my arms up, you know what I mean? I'm standing up, right? Yeah. And very few people can hold me down. And this little ball thing did. And then there was 2 more of them out in the woods by the hospital, just waiting there for it. And then all 3 of them like noodled out and disappeared over the top of the mountain. Right?
They're like your guardian angels or something. They're watching you. They're always watching you.
That's the thing is, I believe this is, I started off really thinking, okay, there's got to be some science, which there is science. There is. But the science that they apply, especially the orbs, is something that's not perceivable to us, their technology, if we can even call it technology, because manipulation of particles and quantum knowledge and all this stuff and mastering all that shit probably happened over the course of millions of years. And by the way, for everybody else who's also thinking, where's all the aliens and stuff, in the amount of time that it takes for microbes or germs on a planet to evolve into a full-blown sentient thinking creature, that's like on the order of, I think, like a few million years or something like that. There's an actual number. And scientists have taken the amount of stars, the size of the galaxy and the universes and everything, calculated how long all of them have existed for the perceivable amount of time that, we can do it right on our timeline or whatever. And they figure that if life started on these other worlds and, it was going to populate the universe, by now, almost every single one of those microbes that had evolved into thinking sentient beings would have had 10 times more time than they would have needed to populate the entire universe, including our planet, which is why I'm of the mind that some of us aren't what we appear to be. There are definitely these orbs here on this planet with us, showing themselves to us. So just the awareness of how important consciousness is being perceived by all of us, that's a step. And the more of us that keep perceiving that as reality, because it is, okay, cognizance, intuition, all of those things are as much a part of us as your heart or your lungs. It's just the conscious part of you, right?
That does seem to be the key. And that, say what you want about Greer, it does seem to work. And we talked about people like Dorothy Izot, and that's someone that I kind of compare some of your work to, and that you just seem to have the gift that she possessed as well, where she could just put a camera up and signal and get footage that only when her eye is in that lens is she getting it. What are your thoughts on Dorothy Izot?
She's one of the most inspirational people. When I heard her talk, the just level of truth that was coming out of her mouth was like scary to me. Mm-hmm. When she speaks, there's no baloney in there. You know what I mean? She's looking straight in the camera. And don't forget, she shot 36,000 feet of film of UFOs on a camera that was working at 1/24th of a second. So those images where they're spelling her name and there's these blurry images of actual entities standing in a row in some kind of a craft, right? In these 30th of a second in between frame things. That didn't happen with anybody else, but she pioneered that, and they had a lot to do with helping her get to that level, right? So that in of itself right there, it's notes and exemplifies the fact that she was communicating with them. And I put a sighting up with that a jellyfish drew a while back. It's on my YouTube page, where I took a frame at the same thing with 1/24th frame, and a jellyfish that I was filming in an alley made this move. And as soon as I looked in the frame, it was a heart. Okay. So if it was a camera bump or anything like that, the chances of it being a heart like that, and I'm not talking just like a kind of a heart, I'm talking like
an emoji.
And I love your heart. Yeah. And a rainbow. And then the next two frames is alien faces drawn with that light. Gray faces 3 times.
Interesting.
So,
wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, oh, you're crazy. You're just looking at fucking twisted shit. Who knows what that is?
No, I love that.
Exactly. So, there are many plans within plans that are going to open all kinds of people's minds still. And I tell people, the information that comes from me, is always going to be Christo stuff, me going in the field and communicating with the orbs. If I am lucky enough ever to film one of those discs that I've seen 4 or 5 times, you can be sure that will show up. But there are many sightings that are posted on my YouTube page, which I challenge anybody to tell me that they don't defy the laws of explanation, especially some of those daytime shots. And the triangle that I was telling you about in the daytime, that Anthony Bourdain triangle, just got picked up by a distributor to be used in films about the subject indefinitely.
Cool.
So now
that's great.
Very
You're getting
cool.
the great pantheon of great, because it is great sighting, and you do seem to be able to not only call what formation they're about to make. There's a great part where a plane is coming right for it. You're like, get away, plane, get out of there.
They're mimicking exactly the position I'm doing. There's one way out over the ocean, too. I'm getting 3 of them to appear at the same time. A plane is trying to approach them. Get away from them, plane. You're idiots. Look at this display. They're turning a full-on triangle right in front of a plane.
Yes, I love that. I love that moment.
They try to charge them and stuff, and if the orb is in the mood to play with them, they'll move along with the plane and harass them or whatever, but never actually cause any harm to anybody. And that's something else. There was this period where people were talking about crush, kill, and destroy, and the aliens are gonna come down, wipe us out. That I'm not saying that's off the table, but I can't see how something like the things that I saw would be very concerned about wasting their energy, no pun intended, on us.
Yeah.
Especially if they exist in the 3rd dimension or something.
Yeah. I have a question real quick. We mentioned Dorothy Izat before. She had experiences where she actually had similar orbs to what she was seeing in the sky appearing inside of her house. And like real close distance, there's a scene in one of the Unsolved Mysteries episodes that we watched where they accidentally caught footage of orbs flying around as they're interviewing people in the house about these things. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Soul orbs, yeah, sure do. And I film them mostly in the daytime when they're screwing around over the top of the house or in the house, kind of moving around. You can usually, the kind of light that's needed to see them clearly, and not mistake them for dust or bugs or something like that. It's something like I told you, that thing that happened in the hospital, that was a full blown orb in the room.
Yeah.
So, and it was only like this, about the size of a tennis ball when it was on me. So, that's a total real thing. Dimensionally, they can be whatever they want to be size wise. And like the orb on the golf course, when that thing went zooming away, it actually shrunk down to do that, which makes sense because that's less resistance. And it could move that way.
I'm curious too. Do they happen just like randomly if they happen in your house and you see them, or is it in any time that you have a certain emotion, like if you're upset or happy, or is it just completely random?
Last night I have the kind of sightings. I don't really see the orbs as much in my house. That hospital thing was the best example of that, but I do see a lot of ghosts. And
really,
tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was gonna say, I was about to say, are ghost hunters now on blast? That like, I'm sorry, ufology, we own the orbs now. This is ours. Or is everyone gonna share? Are ghosts also orbs?
And you're not supposed to do this, but I'm gonna get a shirt that says "I yell at ghosts."
Like Zach Baggins.
Exactly. I was gonna say that. They love it.
He would love you, I think.
Whether you know it or not, once they know that you're aware of them, they like to fiddle about and they like to, they like to have their fun. But there's also times where, like, I'm in the bedroom and like I'll be sitting on my bed behind me, and it's like completely dark in my house, and you'll see these very, very just barely luminescent shapes of these entities, and they're like in these bunches, and they're usually below me when I'm sitting on the bed. They'll just kind of move around just below like my line of sight, my lower periphery. And as long as I don't look directly at them, they'll stay there for a while. But I've never had any real big problems with them. I have had alien problems in my other house that I lived in, the one that's in the first movie. I had a hairy alien that was in the closet.
Whoa.
And I woke up after being in this dream about being in this ship that was all furry on the inside.
Whoa.
Purple on the front of it. And we went to this planet that had all of this smoke around it. And when I woke up from that dream, I was on the floor like I was in the hospital. I have a wood floor in my bedroom, so I was on a cold wood floor. And I woke up and I heard something in the closet. And I'm like, all right, motherfucker. That's it.
What's he doing in there? What was he doing in there?
That's the little hairy guy.
Yeah.
Black in the closet. But then I saw like this face go, just kind of come like just out of the darkness like that.
Oh, that's creepy.
And it was a hairy face. So I said, fuck you. And I dove in and I wrestled with this thing, man. And I woke up pretty beaten up badly. I had scratches back and everything. And I was no longer in the closet. I was in the bathroom in the room next to the closet when I woke up.
Little hairy guy was going to shave you in there.
Give you the mind link,
get your hair.
Oh, man.
Who knows what its intents were? Oh my goodness.
With a hairy face, So.
Yeah. That's crazy. I've never heard that before.
Kill a gorilla from outer space. You know what I mean?
We've heard David Huggins, another alien contactee that we've studied on our show. David Huggins, he had some encounters with a little hairy guy himself. So this is not unheard of.
Yeah, but he got to get alien sex out of it. He just wrestles with him.
Yes, he has a whole different sort of relationship.
And that thing was not a thing of many words, it was just like, here I am, let's go, so. But
let's do this, right?
That the physicality of an entity denotes kind of its demeanor and its unpredictability. I think the orbs don't really have much to worry about. So they don't have that kind of, they don't behave that way. It's strange.
They're just kind of hanging around, like observing, do you think?
Yeah. It's like the ghosts. They can be disruptive. When they're in this mood, they're disruptive. And it's like, seems like almost like they get tired of their own shit. And then they calm down, bunch up, and they just kind of float around in front of you. You're like, okay. But yeah, that was last night. I had one of those.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
How frequently does that happen, would you say?
I could probably count the amount of times that's happened on both hands, but it's happened since I was a kid to like now,
But you connect those experiences to the same lights that you see in the sky.
I think it's because I'm like kind of like remote viewer in a way, when people start bullshitting me, or when they, there's certain things that people will do when they're talking to me, and it just kind of like opens up their whole head, and I just kind of see what's behind there. And it's like you feel like you're molesting a person when they start doing this to themselves, because you can see the real motivation. You can see the truth turning into a lie and then coming out of their mouth. It's really weird.
Wow. That sounds intense.
The ability that I use with the orbs, it's like I just try to really pay attention a lot when they're, even when they're not manifested yet, I still know they're coming or they're there, and I sense of them. You know what I mean?
Is it possible to film these though? Or, I mean, I know you probably don't want to be filming yourself 24/7, but have you ever thought about trying? Yeah.
No, I've never tried to film them. I can try sometime. Maybe I'll try for you, bud, next time.
That would be so cool.
Hey, by the way, what you asked me about that.
We'll get the Christo cam. Yeah, we'll just go check in on you at night. We'll wake you up. We'll text you.
The live stream 24 hours.
Hey, the hairy guy is doing something back there with an orb.
For me, the disappointment in that research is some of the people that are involved, not all of them. And I know people who are involved, like in the paranormal network, there's a lot of very serious people there. It's not like some other networks that I won't name because it's not polite. But I mean, those people really put me through the ringer to make sure that what I was presenting was the real thing. And I made sure that I did. And, I sent them multiple examples too, so they would know I'm not like a one-trick pony or any of that stuff. And it's very, very real. So,
it's kind of the J. Allen Hynek approach that they have to take. And that's something that Dorothy Izot also passed. She was able to,
my favorite people in the genre, just because he's a kooky mad scientist like me. And, he got schooled, and like me, started off thinking that it was just some explainable, phenomena, some side effect of misperception or whatever. And at the end, he came out and said it's supernatural.
He pissed a lot of people off too. I
pissed a lot of people off doing that shit. I don't care. They can say whatever they want. They can, it's like meat pies. You just go in the shower and you wash it off. It's all right.
Yeah, 100%,
right on.
100%.
So there's another, we're talking about orbs and all this. We're getting to my favorite subject. There's another aspect of ufology that a lot of our listeners love is the phenomenon of rods. These small cylindrical objects that move too fast to be seen by the naked eye, but appear on film. What do you, Christo, think of rods?
I filmed them many times. I have a lot of footage. I get the people that believe in rods, they know when they see them, right? And,
absolutely.
Right? There's no denying that. It's not a moth that's at an accelerated frame rate. I've worked that science out a whole bit. I know, right. We're talking about a pulsing thing. And I've seen them join too and stuff like that. So the problem for me is that when they do appear and you capture them, because of how they look, people instantaneously just go up your ass with the fact that they're not what you're saying they are. And to me, I don't like wasting my time with something because that's a cryptoid type thing for me. It's a cryptid, that there are certain things like the Abani, which the Abani are a whole other thing, like the jellyfish that move orbs around. The Abani in Mexico, if you look them up on the internet, you'll see them emitting orbs or absorbing orbs, these things that look like these snakes floating around up in the air. Well, there's a lot of radiation up in the upper atmosphere, you know what I mean? And they're starting to believe that there are organisms that live up in that light-rich radioactive part of the atmosphere and actually thrive on that. So there would be some kind of symbiosis between the orbs and these entities that they're aware of, but we're not. All right. That's the other thing about orbs. They probably know a whole bunch about a completely different spectrum of life on this planet that we have no idea is probably living right alongside of us. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, no kidding.
Cool.
That whole interdimensional thing you were talking about before with the UFOs and people saying, how come they're not here? Like, well, they are. So I was curious too, if you, the theory behind that, like, that, do you think that they're constantly around? They're just kind of thinning the veil just whenever people are perceiving?
All the time. And there's a way I've been reading about with a telescope that's non-parabolic in the lens. And using this kind of special telescope, you can go on these ley lines and actually see them hovering over military bases 24/7. And I tested that theory. There's a sighting that's on my YouTube page that's Christo goes to secret base and signals out triangles, or goes to NASA and signals out triangles, where I went up to the airfield up in Cupertino and I broke in because it's NASA, that's where they have Ames and they have skunk works and everything. So I went over the fence and I got in there through the old barracks and managed to get up high enough that I was able to signal where they parked their cars. But I was signaling towards the skunk works tent, which is this big white tent that they have set up there. Sure as shit, Orb showed up right up over the top of the skunk works tent, started making these little triangle formations, at which point I knew it was clobbering time for me, because this white truck in that same clip, you see this white truck pull in, and that's the security guys. Fortunately, they were fatter than I am, so I was able to back over the fence, and I am not shitting you. As I got in my car and I was driving onto the on-ramp away from the location, a K car came down, a Plymouth K car, and there was a guy in the front, full-blown bulletproof vest with an M16 holding it in his hands, while another guy dressed exactly the same was driving the car, and two guys in the back also had rifles. And one of them was 16. So I did the old man Christo thing where I put my glasses and I'm like, well,
I'm lost. Where am I? I don't know where I'm going.
Which way did he go?
Senior moment. Silver
that's
alert.
Brilliant. I love it.
Right? Mess up the hair, go to Whole Foods, slip.
Well, if a lot of these incidents are happening, places like NASA and these closed bases and the old monoliths, what do you think about Bob Lazar and him claiming that the government can back engineer some of these things, and that maybe some of the things that you're seeing, maybe that disc is something that is re-engineered and a part of is man-made?
Yeah. One of those discs that I saw was the alien test vehicle. That's the one I wanted to, and that's one of the ones that I want to talk about, and was witnessed by a friend of mine who owns a deli that I go to, because I don't want to go into too much detail, but yeah, the nuts and bolts stuff, and more specifically, since you bring it up, I think that the Tic Tacs, which everybody is making a big deal about being extraterrestrial, I say it's extraterrestrial technology. And it's something coming from somewhere that, even though they're riding on a pressure wave, it's still controlled flight. Okay. So it's going, that's not, first of all, those objects weren't moving on those wave lines. Okay. The Tic Tacs were mimicking those planes, which another key word, the pilot said, as I was coming down, he was coming up, mimicking my movements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can
say that.
Yeah, they can mimic a lot more than just the movements. They can produce lights internally that make them look just like plane lights or anything else. There's a woman in Pennsylvania that people were making a lot of fun on because she liked to drop acid while she was doing her sightings, which is,
man, you gotta teach their own.
I mean, that's a quick way to see stuff, but
that calmed her down right away, I'm sure. But she would tell people all the time, these things can transform, they can shapeshift, and I've seen it happen in Mount Amanum. We didn't put that footage in the movie because I was screaming at the director at the top of my lungs because his timing belt started squeaking. So it kind of like audio ruined the whole shot, so we didn't use it. But they came out of a cloud in front of me and fooled me on camera because the director's like, "Is that the orbs? What is that?" Right? And I'm like, "It's a plane. It's a fucking plane." And then as it came all the way out of the cloud, it just completely broke apart, started making triangles. And the whole thing. I felt like God, they just punked me.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to mess with you.
Yeah, but they were showing me that I was right too. That they can mimic. So and it's you wouldn't imagine that something that's like billions of years more intelligent than us wouldn't be able to figure out how to do a couple of things to sneak in, with the rest of the pack. I mean, wolf in sheep's clothing, right? So.
Yeah, very true.
I guess why it would make more sense for the Tic Tac to be some kind of back engineered thing. The fact that it's being filmed for so long and that footage is coming to us, and that now it caused such a big thing that the Pentagon had to release a report, and this 9-page report it comes out. What do you think about all this mainstream attention UFOs have gotten just in the last few months?
You missed one thing. And the most recent sighting from the Navy that was filmed off the deck of the Indianapolis, I believe it was that triangle that had an upside down pyramid, a large orb, and a small orb. Okay. And there was no Tic Tacs in that sighting. These were the classic UFO type orbs that surrounded that ship. They have the radar thing of it going around the boats, moving 26,000 miles an hour to their rendezvous point without even them knowing how they do that shit, right? Well, if they're interdimensional, they can look into the future, right? So, they can move through a time corridor, no problem, and get to where, they may have already watched you do that a few seconds ago, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Didn't even think about that.
No, but I think that, like I said, really important for all of us that are into this and that are doing it to understand that the government is going to present us stuff out of duress. That footage was leaked by Tom DeLonge first, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no way we're going to be able to keep that a secret for very long. And people were, debating whether it was real or not. People actually some researchers really cut their throats bad by going on camera and saying, "Oh, that's not a UFO." Well, it wasn't a plane either. So, somebody has reverse engineered. I think this is where our conversation started out. Somebody has definitely, to answer your question, reverse engineered nuts and bolts technology from one terrestrial race, which is basically us coming back from the future, like the J-Rod or something like that. You guys know what the J-Rod is, right?
What's the J-Rod?
What's the J-Rod? Can you explain that to me real quick?
Well, let me give you a little heads up. There was a little guy named the J-Rod, and he was this gray alien that they captured and they brought to Area 51. And he worked with this scientist in Area 51. And they helped this alien build a Stargate that allowed them to look into the future at Area 51. And this Gray worked with the scientists for quite a while until towards the end of his tenure there, he zapped one of the employees with some kind of mind ray and stuff, fucked him up really bad.
J-Rod.
I swear.
Like Phil Schneider or something.
I can't believe J-Rod did that.
Hypnosis thing happening between him and the psychologist. He hypnotized the psychologist and got him to walk him right to the Stargate, where he went back to the future to his time because, he had left his whole family behind. And one of the things he said is, "Remember, I'm you from the future. This is where it's all going to go. And it'll go beyond what I am too. We've engineered ourselves. You're going to do the same thing." And for everybody who thinks we're just going to go to Mars and hop out of the rocket after a 4 or 5 month journey there, in a rocket probably powered by either ion propulsion or nuclear power, right? After we travel through the Van Allen radiation belt, right? That they're just going to hop out of Elon's rocket and start doing construction and building, inflatables. They're going to have to do a little enhancement on the human body before that's going to become a reality. And it's going to start with the implants that, the neural implants that Elon also owns the company for, the Neuralink. And at that point, people will be able to pilot the Star Cruiser or Starship or whatever they're going to call it, basically with their mind alone, remotely. Same thing with the war technology. It's going to get really scary because Elon also said on camera while the head of the Space Force was sitting right next to him that the F-17s or whatever that he had just bought are already obsolete, and that that mind-controlled drones were just take over that entire need for jets or people in a jet, flying a jet into war or anything.
That's the beginning of Terminator. That's how.
Well, we're almost the alien. Right? We're almost the aliens now. Almost.
Yeah. You see somebody though trying to fly a Starship to Mars without that ability and running all of those systems, keeping track of everything that's going on in that ship to maintain all of those lives on the way there for 4 months with little meteorites, banging on the side. I mean, if I was, and I hope they bring a UFO kind of enlightened person with them. I really think that's important. But if I was in there and I heard a meteorite bounce off of the hull of that thing, I'd be like, all right, where's the pod? Can I get in that thing?
Escape pod, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, make sure you pay extra for that.
But I told them I already sent a message to Elon Musk, to Bezos, and to the guy from Virgin that if they're pay for my ticket, I would be more than happy to help them make history by being the first or one of many who would actually take a UFO researcher into orbit. And I volunteer to do it first. So if you guys want to see me go up into orbit before I croak, that can go on the third.
I would love that. I would love it if they made it somehow a reality show with all of the UFO people. You would win it, of course.
I want to see a reality show of Christo because I feel like you would be fantastic.
You'd have to go against Greer, Lazar. I think Christo would take the personality vote for sure. He'd be up there.
I'm there with my flashlight right by the window of the fucking thing, and I'd be like, all right, there he is.
That was one of my favorite parts of the new documentary was you actually going around and talking to other people who had experiences and seeing you now kind of turn the table, and now you're on the other side where now you're the one who's talking to other people who had the experiences. And I really liked that. I thought that it was really cool to see you in that, in that role. And I love how you had Gino with you as your sidekick, which I thought was a great touch. That was great. I would love to see you do more of that.
And, on that note, a lot of credit goes to Matthew Colomane, the director of the movie. He was very, very good with the coverage in those interviews, and he did a really nice job of filming everything. He kind of lifted up and was the first director to go to a sighting and film it. He was there when it happened several times. So he knew it was real, and he wanted to go in there with this truck. He brought like a fucking $6,000 camera with him, and he's running around with a huge tripod. And I mean, those shots down on the beach towards the end of the movie, that's
beautiful. So beautiful.
It's like Close Encounters or something, And I was so happy when I saw the look on his face that he was actually filming those UFOs himself,
That's great.
It was, and again, him and Christiana DiPietro, my co-producer, and Frank Gertz, my sound guy. We used a very small crew on this movie. There was a 30-person crew on the first movie, and there was a 5-person crew on the second one. And I think we lifted up the production.
Wow.
I think it's seamless. It's a seamless transition between the two films. I think they work. They complement each other very nicely. And
it felt good to be back as a viewer, as someone who really loved the first one. I was like, oh, we're back on the old stomping ground, and just the continued drama. I really liked it, and I loved interviewer Christo. You're like almost like you're like the Carrie Fisher of the paranormal, because you got Gino with you, just like she always had the dog with her, and it was like, yeah, definitely. And I appreciate the Star Wars shirts, too. So I had to get my Star Wars reference in here, too.
Let's get a quick Star Wars question in. What's your favorite Star? We see you always with the shirts, and of course, Chewbacca named after the legendary character. What's your favorite Star Wars film?
Empire Strikes Back.
Of course.
I would have to say. And then for the modern ones, I really liked Rogue One.
Yes, good choice.
The sound design in that movie was just, I don't know if anybody went and saw Rogue One in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Of course.
Yeah, I was there.
We're true nerds.
Kind of slipped through the cracks, and I'm like, are you guys fucking kidding me? You're not like going crazy right now? What is wrong with you?
The acoustic like rendition of the theme, yeah, it was really, really cool.
And the ensemble of characters in that film was, I mean, heretofore, I've yet to see a director bring those kind of performances, especially when people are being emotional and angry. In Rogue One, man, they got it on in that movie, you know. There was stuff there. So same thing, I think, with The Mandalorian.
Yes. I loved it. I do a podcast about it. I love it.
Oh, my baby Yoda. I gave one of the people that I work with, and a very, very close friend, Allie Matthews, her little baby Yoda shirt. She won't take it off, man. She loves that.
Everybody loves baby Yoda. Come on, everybody loves that guy.
Shout out Pam Z. Yeah, we'll have to get you on one of our weird Star Wars podcasts at one point. But and I'm gonna wrap it up a little bit. I definitely do not want to spoil the end. I want everyone to go check out The Man Who Sees UFOs on Vimeo. But I will say you do seem very much more at peace now. And before we let you go, do you have any parting words about UFOs and what the future might hold for you, Christo?
Well, I can just say this. For everybody that's hung in there with me all this time and has followed me in my research, the well is deep, and the story is long, and many things are coming your way. And some of it is stuff you've already seen, but may need to see again in a new light. And some of it is stuff that is pretty much just going to blow your mind. So get ready for all of that. And in the meantime, now you have 2 films that you can watch. You know, it always drove me crazy when people would say, you know, I watched this movie like 3 or 4 times a week. And sometimes when I'm in the shower, I just put it on so I can hear the quotes in the background.
It's great. It's got great replayability.
I'm wondering which quotes they're going to think about when they're showering in the second film. Because, boy, there's some ballbusters.
There's some good ones, all right.
Yeah, but you guys, I just want to thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart for doing this. Please share it with my friends on YouTube channel. Put your thing up there. I really appreciate that, because I'm kind of I've got people that are actually helping me with the front office kind of stuff, you know. But for a while there, it was just becoming super overwhelming to do it all on a regular basis. And, you know, when we were home, we're still doing that stuff. There was a hit song written about me by Blitz Vega. Did you know that?
Oh, no, we didn't. We're going to have to play that in this episode now that you said that. I know what we're playing after this interview's over. They're going to hear that.
It's called Hey Christo. And it's on the same record with, there's another song called Hollywood Vampires, but it's Andy York, the bass player from the Smiths, and the guitar player from the Happy Mondays and the Gorillaz.
Wow.
And some of the guys from the Smiths Singers band too, some of the synth players are in there. But the cool thing is they recorded that record on some of the amps and equipment that they recorded Major Toms on, and recorded it in the studio at Abbey Roads. So
that is super cool. I found that
out living in my station wagon on Thanksgiving.
Very cool. That is so awesome.
That is awesome. That's such a cool story.
And yeah, we're going to hear it now. Let's hear, we're going to say goodnight. And thank you so much, Christo, for coming on. Everyone go check out the new doc, Man Who Sees UFOs. The curse is on this one.
And here, hold on. One last thing. Gino.
Oh, yay, Gino.
25 years old.
Wow.
He's older than you, Rob.
He looks great for his age.
He's very.
I love him.
Is forever. Okay. It's back to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gino.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Christo. Yes, Blitz Vega with Hey Christo. And that's a great song. And
Good
what a great,
stuff.
fun interview. I've loved having Christo on. It was great. And man, I got a little vindication. Rods, I don't want to hear any more crap about it. I'm definitely going to go back and clip him. Whatever he said, he said rods are real or something like that.
Yeah,
He's reeling
he said something
from rods.
about people going up your ass if you talk about it because they're going to tell you that it's not real. But, rods and up your ass in the same sentence, good clip.
He did say that he's captured rods on his tape. So obviously, I feel like I just have to play.
He goes, "There's rods on your tape."
Get an idea of the self-control Rob has to keep during an interview to not just be blasting soundboard clips.
Ready to burst.
He wouldn't know what you were talking about. You were talking about rods flying in their mouth and
I
stuff.
didn't have to.
Thank you for the restraint. It was very cool. Now you can just get them all out now.
Well, I didn't even have to because he was just some of the stuff that Christo was saying. He is a walking soundboard. He's the best, man. I love Christo, and I feel like every time we get to talk to him, we learn a little bit more about him, and he opens up the veil a little bit and gets to really dig into what these things are that he sees, and it's so cool. It's so fascinating.
It's always so fun having him on too. He's just so easy to talk to, and just like he wants to share all this information. He just goes and goes, and I don't know. I love it. It didn't even feel like we were doing an interview. It felt like we were just hanging out and talking.
Yeah.
And he dropped so much new information there. And this documentary just came out. Of course, go see it. The Man Who Sees UFOs, not The Curse, which would be the first one. I mean, you can go see that one too. That was also a really great documentary. But I mean, this was very fresh in our mind. This just came out about a week or so ago. And he dropped a lot of information here tonight that is not in that. So that was a little bit of a scoop. I was glad to hear that.
Exclusive.
I feel lucky that we get to talk to somebody like Christo, who is like a modern day Dorothy Izat in a lot of ways. And he is, a living legend in the UFO community, regardless of, he may not be known as notorious as some of the other UFO people out there, but I feel like
getting there.
He's getting there. And with these films, he's making himself stand out by he really lets himself be vulnerable, and you get to see a little bit more about the actual man who sees these UFOs and
exactly,
and his
that's
connection
what I think
with the UFOs.
That's the biggest difference between the first documentary and this one, is that the first one obviously was focused on, the fact that he couldn't stop seeing these things even if he wanted to, but he did. And in this one, it's focusing on the man who sees UFOs, not the curse of, but this is like just more into his story. And it just really helps flesh that all out.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Definitely check it out.
I feel like it takes our show back to like the roots of the Unbelievable podcast, where Brian always talked about how his favorite thing about the paranormal was the people involved and the characters that you meet when you start looking into these stories. And Christo is the perfect example of like, you don't know what sort of person you're going to meet in these stories. And sometimes there are really, really cool, really interesting people who have some wild experiences that, it's a rare thing to get to share with people.
And he's one of the good guys too. There's so many kind of shady characters out there that we have to end up talking about all the time. But so I'm glad for a lot of the good guys in there, and I'm glad that Christo's cool with us and comes on. So thank you so much. But wow, we went a little long with this. So yeah, we're gonna save the voicemail. We got some cool voicemails to play next week. So we got to get to everyone's third favorite segment, poll results. Oh, wait, I forgot one thing. Are we going to have a poll for Christo? We got to put a poll up this week, right?
I think we should.
I didn't even think about that. Okay.
I think we should.
Let's see.
All right, we'll come up with it. There'll be something Christo related in the poll. We'll think of it, but we got to get to this week's poll. What's the best monster show? And the choices were Mountain Monsters, Alaska Monsters, Swamp Monsters, or Monsters Underground, or other. I'm going to ask you, Drea Mora, what do you think the unbelievers said?
It's got to be the OGs, Mountain Monsters.
All right. She's going with Huckleberry and Friends. How about you, Rob?
You know what? I'm going for the underdogs here. I'm going Swamp Monsters all the way.
Oh, I thought you were going to go underground for
that's the underground choice. I'm not going for that one.
Well, congratulations. Drea Mora tied with Alaska Monsters with with 4.76% of the vote.
Whopping.
Mountain monsters and Alaska monsters got some equal love there. But of course, there are others. What's the best monster show? Monsters of the UFO. Why would you ask about that? Signed, Corrupted Mass. That Monsters of the UFO, that's the original Kelly Hopkinsville documentary, right? Monsters of the UFO.
Oh, you're talking about this one?
Why would I lie about something like that?
I know what you're getting at, Corrupted Mask. That is a pretty good one. What's the best monster show? I love Underground Alaska Swamp Mountain Monsters. It's the best. Signed, Left-Handed Buckle Grabber. Man, that would be great. A super team of all those guys.
Yeah.
Yes, they had a fan boat in that Alaska show. Don't forget that.
That's the most ambitious crossover since Avengers Endgame, right there. Just imagine
it's gonna
all
go
those
underneath the Alaskan swamps.
all those characters on one screen at the same time. It would be
jeez.
That'd be great.
Oh, here's this clip though.
I remember gripping my belt buckle with my left hand, I think it was.
Still sounding like George Norrie here. Thank you, Left-Handed Buckle Grabber. What's the best monster show? I'll drop these pants so fast, and in the twinkling of a dick, give you a monster show you'll never forget. Signed, Rococo Style. Okay,
What's
Rococo
up?
Style.
Oh, man.
A little bit of monster show himself.
Of the Rococo style that embellished the building.
Thank you, Rococo Style. What's the best monster show? If they didn't have monsters, those shows would just be about assholes with beards. Signed, K. Mill. I guess you're right. And I don't know how that would still be a show, but...
I'm a wet huckleberry. Hell yeah!
You're right, K. Mill. It almost is that, because we don't see a lot of actual monsters. Thank you, K. Mill.
Almost never.
What's the best monster show? Is this a real horse monster show? Fuck you, Beverly. Signed, Green Finhawk. Got a couple classics in there.
You might be thinking, horse? Monster?
Is this a real show?
Yeah, seamless. Thank you, Green Finhawk.
And of course,
fuck you, Beverly.
Oh, it's weirder every time. Thank you, Green Finhawk. What's the best monster show? David Huggins making a big old bowl of hot gooey. Signed, Spermy Paracock. Hey, Spermy Paracock is back. Yeah, it has. And, oh, God, coming in hot with Huggins. Hot and gooey.
We went to this room. There was this bowl on this table, and I was supposed to ejaculate into the bowl.
I'm noticing a theme with him.
But what else about the bowl? What's in that bowl? Is it?
It was so English, så var så hot gooey, but emnet havde vi kendt bare en love parlamentaris.
Parlamentars, Spermy Paracock.
Noticing some sort of an ongoing theme with him. Can't really tell what it is, but it's something.
I can't put my finger on it.
Quite on it.
It's a good monster show. What's the best monster show? Monster Quest should do an episode on the cast of these shows. Signed, Pants Filler.
Agreed.
Yeah. I could say, yeah, well, they got to hunt each other. Sure.
I like
wait, no,
this.
Monster Quest. They'd be all over them.
Be throwing up and filling my pants.
You got it, Pants Filler. Yeah, Monster Quest would completely debunk all those guys, just for their lives in general.
Just them.
Yes.
This guy doesn't exist.
What's the best monster show? The Unbelievers Podcast. It covers all the monster shows better than the actual shows could. Signed, Jactavius Mactasius.
He's in the lead.
Jactavius.
He's in the lead just
Such
for
a compliment.
being
How
such
can we
a
not?
nice guy.
I don't know how I feel about compliments in the poll. We don't get a lot of those.
That's how you get ahead. I don't know.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jactavius Mactasius. What's the best monster show? The Unbelievable Podcast. Duh. Yes, you're right.
Well, all right.
See,
okay, so
you immediately got brought back to reality. There you go, guys. And guess what? They didn't even sign off, but we do agree. What's the best monster
that must
show?
Have been Brian.
The Monster Show in My Pants. Signed, Half-Cocked Jack Shafto.
Whoa.
Half-Cocked Jack Shafto.
Another monster show in the pants?
Another monster show in the pants. What's the best monster show? The show about me and mom escaping dad. He was a fucking monster. Signed, guess who? Scared of my dad guy.
Once again,
yes.
The theory that his dad actually is Bigfoot, because he said he's a monster, so...
I wish Bigfoot were my dad.
Alcoholic Bigfoot on top of it.
And there is a show about him and his mom escaping. We'll figure out what it is. What's the best monster show? Because it is the best. What's the best monster show? All of them. It's a graveyard smash. I call it a monster mash. Signed, Tom D. Long. Hey, Tom D. Long popping in with the Monster Mash.
For me.
Tom,
yes,
nope, Tom D. L-O-N-G.
Yeah,
no E.
Yeah, I should have known.
Where are you?
You're right here in poll results, and that's the second time we've heard. We didn't play that earlier, but I'm pretty sure
I was
said
so
that
tempted to, but I didn't want Christo to be like, "Where the hell did that come from?"
Yeah.
So I just did it like an asshole.
So yeah.
What's the best monster show? Man, I got a Bigfoot deep in that wild Alaskan bush. Whoop whoop, yabba dabba doo, Bushman. Signed. Blue Box UFO. Oh, got the great sounds of face. I'm so glad we can finally hear face here. Whoop.
Can I throw a bonus one in there too? Because you know what that was?
That was the Dungarvan Hooper. That was hooping.
Oh yeah, that's right. We did put together that was a hooper. You must have this whole whooper
I got a
file
little,
open there.
I got a whooper file. I do got a whooper file.
I'm pretty sure it's next to the next clip too, which is. Thank you, Blue Box UFO. What's the best monster show? Personally, I like shows about my favorite thing in the world, a breast. Signed, Mothman Mother. Oh, that's pretty good.
Oh, man.
One of my favorite objects in the whole world, a breast.
That's my favorite. You're the lead, Mothman Mother. What's the best monster show? Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of Bushman screams. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the beast. Yes. Okay. You guys got it better than me. Thank you, Lid Vicious. Yeah, give it to her.
Good stuff.
That's the sound of the police.
Oh, we got to remix that.
All right, I guess jumping tied to the lead to Lid Vicious. What's the best monster show? All I know is that those mouth sounds gave me the damn creeps. Signed, the Wombat Preservationist. It can't be guys in beards without weird mouth noises. When he takes out his dentures, it sounds like this.
Ew.
Oh, I think he's right, because...
This place is giving me the freaking creeps.
His teeth are giving me the creeps.
Being in that car, it's
giving you the dang old creeps,
The
huh?
mouth is giving me the creeps.
Thank you, Wombat Preservationist. What's the best monster show? Monsters and Mysteries. Those other hillbilly hunters just remind me of Deliverance. Weird? Oh, or what? Alejandro.
Great delivery.
Weird? Oh, or what, Alejandro? Signed, Voodoo. Thank you, Voodoo. Yeah, I love Monsters and Mysteries. Those guys will make you say...
Weird? Oh. Or what?
Alejandro. Thank you, Voodoo. What's the best monster show? They called it Otterboy. Oh, wait, sorry. Okay, this guy fucked this up. Let me take this again.
Okay.
They put it's instead of if. Make me sound like an asshole. All right, you ready? What's the best monster show? If they called it Otterboy instead of Otterman, Pete Townsend would find it right away. Signed, Boner Yogurt.
Got him.
Hey, he was just doing research, Boner Yogurt. He was just researching Otterboy. Good one. Very good one.
Got him, though. He did get him.
Got him.
Thank you, Boner Yogurt. And finally for tonight, what's the best monster show? Who's this sexy alligator hunk I hear about in Florida Strangeness? Signed, Late Unbeliever. P.S. Now I'm on episode 65. All right. Hey, he's catching up. He might have seen an alligator hunk, but he also... saw this.
That's a floating lantern. You're not getting away from me.
Thank you, Late Unbeliever. So many great ones tonight. I'll go through them real quick. What's the best monster show? We had Corrupted Mask with Monsters of the UFO. Why would you ask about that? We had Left-Handed Buckle Grabber with I Love Underground Alaska Swamp Mountain Monsters. It's the best. We had Rococo Style. I'll drop these pants so fast and in the twinkling of a dick give you a monster show you'll never forget. We had K Mill. We had K Mill with If They Don't Have Monsters, those shows would just be about assholes with beards. We had Green Finhawk. Is this a real horse monster show? Fuck you, Beverly. Spermy Paracox had David Huggins making a big old bowl of hot gooey. We had Pants Filler with Monster Quest should do an episode on the cast of these shows. We had Jactavius Mactasius with the Unbelievers podcast. It covers all the monster shows better than the actual shows could. We had We had cocked Jack Shafto. God, thanks. A half-cocked Jack Shafto with The Monster Show in my pants. We had Scared of My Dad guy with a show about me and my mom escaping dad. He was a fucking monster. We had Tom D. Long with All of Them. It's a graveyard smash. I call it a monster mash. We had Blue Box UFO. It's much fun. It was actually funnier the second time. It's funny the first time. That's good too.
Pretty good.
We had Blue Box UFO. Man, I got a Bigfoot deep in that wild Alaska bush. Whoop, whoop. Yabba dabba doo, Bushman. We had Mothman Mother. Personally, I like these shows about my favorite thing in the world, a breast. We had Lid Vicious with whoop whoop. That's the sound of Bushman screams. Whoop whoop. That's the sound of the beast. We had the Wombat Preservationist with All I Know Is That Those Mouth Noises Gave Me the Damn Creeps. We had Voodoo with Monsters and Monsters and Mysterious. Those other hillbilly hunters just remind me of Deliverance. Weird. Oh, or what, Alejandro? We had Boner Yogurt with If They Called It Otter Boy instead of Otter Man. Pete Townsend would find it right away. And we had the late unbeliever with Who's This Sexy Alligator Hunk I Hear About in Florida Strangeness? Drea Mora. Who do you think won this week's poll?
Oh, as much as I loved all of the Monster Show in my pants illusions, I gotta go with Tom D. Long, the Monster Mash one. Just a great visual.
I like
and
that
snappy.
one too. That was good.
It's a pretty good Monster Show. What about you, Rob? Which one do you like?
I liked Lid Vicious. I like how she used the whoop whoop. That's the
that
sound
was great.
of these. I like that she gave it her own little spin. That was really good.
Oh God, you guys are making this so hard. You know what though? I'll go with Drea. Congratulations, Tom D. Long with All of Them. It's a graveyard smash. I call it a monster mash. Congratulations, champion! Whoop whoop! You just won this week's poll results. Well, we've come to the end of the program, but before we go, Drea Mora, do you have anything you'd like to say or plug?
Yeah, my usual plugs for Spirits and Spirits on Instagram at Spirits and Spirits Pod and on Twitter at Ghost Drinkers.
Excellent. And what about you, Rob? You got anything to plug?
I will say, check out one of the shows I edit this week. I got to edit Ken Burns, which is really cool. So check out Abe Lincoln's Top Hat. There's a great episode that they just put out. And yeah, the legendary Ken Burns, documentarian filmmaker. So check that out. Also, check out our Patreon. If you enjoyed this interview, we think that we're going to put an extended version of it up on the Patreon. So definitely check out our Patreon, patreon.com/unbelieverspodcast. If you're interested in hearing a little bit more after of what we talked about after we got done with our actual interview.
We had a fun little extra little conversation with Christo we could put up there. And yeah, I'll say too that the tournament of SOS is about to start. I'm leaving the brackets open for just a few more days. If you got to edit it or do anything or get in there, patrons, let me know. It's not too late. And of course, go check out The Man Who Sees UFOs. It is streaming on Vimeo, I believe, right now. And that's it. The Unbelievers Podcast hosts today were Drea Mora and me, Russ Ryan. Our producer and soundboard engineer is Rob Oakey. You can go get our tarot cards at unbelievablepodcards.com. You can join our Patreon by going to patreon.com/unbelieverspodcast. You can follow us on Twitter at unbelieverspod and Instagram at unbelieverspodcast. Our Facebook group is the Unbelievable Podcast Network. And check out our merch store at TeePublic. There's a link in the description. Wear some of the Mothman. Represent. We're going to be there. And thank you to all the patrons. Lid Vicious, Linnea Sterte, Fabian, Art Muffin, Nick Marshall, Ramiro, Sam Schwoval, Creepy Little Book, Johnny Knott, Sandy, and Deborah Foles, Cade, Baute, Chris Stroker, Jeffrey Hartmanov, Luis Payon, 8-Bit Melody, Jenny Dyer, Christopher Balderrama, David Egelhoff, Pam Z, JT Spranklin, Vic Voss, Little BB, Dr. Ortega, Tyler Ventura, Adam Dvorak, Corrupted Mass, Michael Phillips, Carol Valley, Manny MQ Ultra, CJP, Braden Hitt, Raymond Well, Todd X, Christopher Benici, The Moon, The Judgy Moon. You happy now? Mike Henry, Bryce Cronenberg Jr., Dawn Bright, Shannon Ferrigno, Tom O'Connell, Donna Bance, Jenna Stevens, Cat Chaos, Jason Kelly, Mike, Brian Ashton, Michael Armenta, Jackass, One Red Preservationist. Our music advisor is just Christo this week. You can take a break, Pandora 3373. Our official composer and theme song creator is Unbeliever Aaron, aka Aaron Chilb. Follow him on Instagram at the Aaron Chilb. Our official graphic designer and card maker who designed our logo is Raymond Rowell. Check out his work at P Raven Creative on Twitter and Project Raven Creative on Instagram. And thank you for the Mothman 2021 design original. If you meet us out there, you will get some cool new Unbelievers podcast
exclusive
Mothman Fest, exclusive merch, and patrons probably get some too. Our official Unbeliever listening between the stations for a message from Art Bell is Scott E. Our official Hazmat Lou is Hazmat Lou. Our official Unbeliever without a title is Nicholas Arastavi. Our official Unbeliever raising puck wedgies is Joe Filler. Our official Big Island paranormal friendly weatherman is Green Finhawk. Our official resident Sagittarius is Anton. Our official Madman is Unbeliever Adam. Our official Mothman enthusiast is Michael Shields. Our official Unbelievers MUFON Inside Man is Chris DeMarias. Our official Unbeliever peacefully eating a hamburger is Michelle Durham. Our official Unbelievers Time Traveler is Taylor Nelson. Our official Ghost Hunter is Amelia Childs and Ghost Hunting in New England. Check out Ghost Hunting New England. They're back with a new season. Hubie Halloween's on Netflix. And our official Senior European Correspondent is Kane Mill of I Don't Know Podcast. Our official Guardian of the Bench is at Kraken Stacker. Our official Alien Bopper is Nunchuck Bob. And this week's Unbeliever Focus is ST, who wanted me to ask Christo about Boyd Bushman and find out what he thought of Boyd Bushman's blow-ups and all those UFOs. Look, I apologize. We just couldn't get to that question in time, but I was able to get in touch with someone from last episode, though. And when asked about Boyd Bushman, he said, good night. R.I.P., Mr. Chewbacca.
Discontinue! Discontinue!